That's probably the best bit of YouTube music I've heard all day.
All right, hello everybody. Welcome to the Overrated Podcast. If you haven't seen us before, I'm Niall and this is Shane. And in this podcast, we go through our favorite bands or film directors and rank their output in terms of our preference. This is our second episode. Today we're going to talk about U2. We're going to rank their albums. If you like the show, just a reminder to tell your friends. And if you really like it, you could give us a like and subscribe. Talk about us in the comments. Let us know what we got wrong or what we got right. And there's all this all the YouTubers will tell you to hit the notification bell, so I'm going to say that as well. Okay, we're going to kick it off now. Shane, what do you think about U2? How do you feel about this?
First of all, I'm not sure. I'm a big fan of the way you described our podcast. All our favorite bands. We're doing U2 now, so speak for yourself. But yeah, I suppose look, we plan to cover a lot of the most. I suppose the biggest bands and most popular filmmakers and stuff like that. But we'll throw the odd curveball in there as well.
Yeah.
So maybe a bit less known. Obviously, Divine Comedy was our first.
So the first one was Divine Comedy. That was your favorite, and now we're doing my favorite band growing up, and this has been a learning experience in that I've had to reassess my opinion of U2. It's like going through emotional trauma, and it's almost like a form of therapy. But it was. So be interesting.
Hopefully this podcast will be a form of therapy. Although I doubt it. I know. Look, I will say I came into this kind of not being a fan of U2 at all, and I'm surprised after listening to their 14 albums for the last 6 weeks probably since we decided we were going to do U2. Look, I there is a lot of stuff there to like. Put it that way. Okay. I'm going to put it that there's a lot of stuff there to like, but
that's a good start.
I'll have some criticisms as well.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to rank the albums. Before we go to do that, maybe a bit of background on U2 might be useful. Like everybody knows U2; they're in the zeitgeist for the last 30 years or 40 years almost. But I think it's useful to understand their trajectory in the different eras, because then when we start talking about the albums, you know where to fit in the whole sort of lifespan and what they were going for, what they were doing at the time. But in terms of U2, like everybody knows the story of when they were formed. They're formed like around 78 or so. They were in school, and the story is that Larry Mullen, the drummer, put an ad up in school and said, "I want to start a band." And most of the members joined the band who are there now, including the Edge's brother, who decided to leave and join another band. How sickened would you be to think, "Oh, I left the biggest band in the world"? And so they went through a few phases. One interesting thing as well, like people like myself included would criticize Adam Clayton. He's not the greatest bassist in the world. Like the early days, he was the guy who was like doing the business, trying to get them gigs, getting them out there basically. And he put them in touch with Paul McGuinness, and Paul McGuinness then was the manager, and he really got them up and running. So like in the early days, he was really the one who got things going.
So he was the driving force, basically.
He's the driving force, essentially, yeah.
Which seems quite surprising, because he seems like the one that is the most laid back, and he just goes along with the flow, while the other two, the Edge and Bono, are just hell bent on taking over the world.
I feel like he was an outcast in school, and this was his way of belonging. That's my interpretation of what was going on. But anyway, so that was then they got their first record deal, and I feel like the first three albums, you can group them together. This sort of rock sound. The Edge is very famous for his use of like the delay pedal on the guitar. It's like this sort of echo sound and this atmospheric type sound. But in the early days, it was very much just this, like an echo. It was like he's playing in the jacks, basically. You can hear the echo, you can hear the sort of the ringing guitar notes and the sort of almost piercing notes sometimes. That was, I think, defining.
It makes sense. Like it does sound like he's playing the jacks. Yeah,
go on. But that was the defining sound. I think the first three albums. But the real sort of the real atmosphere, when the delay comes in, that sort of repeated notes, when he plays one note and you hear it three times, that really came in, I suppose, the second set of albums so the first three will be
Steve Lillywhite was the producer.
Steve Lillywhite was the producer, yeah. So that would be Boy, October, War. That was Steve Lillywhite, very much more rock focused, waving flags around, Sunny Bloody Sunday, that sort of stuff. Then the next one was Brian Eno came on board, very atmospheric. And you have Unforgettable Fire, Joshua Tree, Rattle and Hum. That's where they really sort of, went to the next level, I think. And one thing about that moment in time was they took themselves very seriously. And in Rattle and Hum, like a live film. So the Rattle and Hum was like the Joshua Tree tour, and the film, the Joshua Tree tour. They brought out a film, and they brought out this sort of hybrid album that's half live, half studio. But there was a bit of criticism when that came out that they took themselves very seriously without a hint of irony, and they took that to heart. And then they thought, right, there's this famous gig in New Year's Eve 1989 in the Point in Dublin, and Bono finishes off and says, we have to go off and dream it all up again. And then they went off and came up with Achtung Baby, which is pure irony, like fully embracing irony at that time. And they're sort of as if they're taking the piss out of, the rock star type thing. And Bono would put on these rock star personas live and overdo things. So like when you see Bono with the big, huge sunglasses and the sort of plasticky leather coat, that's the sort of thing they're going for there. And that sort of defines their 90s period, embracing irony in very different shapes or forms, until they get to the end of the 90s when they're in pop, and then they got some backlash for nearly taking that too far. And then in the 90s, it's a case of strip it back again. So then they're sort of stripped back a bit, and it's been various flavors of strip back since then, back to guitars. And
would it be stripped back is the right word, what right phrase for like the post, all that you can't leave behind? Just seems like they've just became more of a middle of the road pop rock band. That's what
I think all that you can't leave
became.
behind. The focus was to strip back in the sense of they took away all the synthesizers, drum machines, all that sort of stuff. It was guitars, like just themselves playing like they did in the old days. There is a bit of that in there, like songs like "Beautiful Day." There's a bit of that, but
they stripped back from the bombast at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, not that they just went back to the roots of, let's try and write some nice melodic songs.
Yeah,
but they still try to write some rock bangers. But I think, from my opinion, anyway, we will go through this when we go through the albums. Is that the later in the second period or the second half of their career, is that they still were capable of producing good kind of ballads.
Yeah,
but their rock stuff was cringe as as can be. So
and they did bring back in various elements of synth and all these sort of experimental stuff as well, which is fair enough. It just wasn't all built around it, I suppose. That's how I would separate them. Okay, so I think it's useful to sort of know where the different things fit in. I'm
definitely very interested, and this will be much later in the day when we'll be talking about it. But I'm interested in your presentation of that they went full on irony come Achtung Baby. I like lyrically. I don't really see it.
More so in the live performances and all that. So like this show, the Zoo TV tour was full on. It was like full on assault on the senses. This is rock turned up to 11 basically. This is like, we're back in 1991, so media then was television. It was all about watch more television and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And these are like loads of images coming through, which is weird to watch it now when we're stuck on our phones and there's even more short attention span. But they were sort of playing on that, and then Bono in the performances, he'd take on these personas, like The Fly, the song The Fly from Achtung Baby. He took on this personas as The Fly, and he'd go around like this over exaggerated rock star. There's another one he had called Mephisto, which is like this devil type guy. You often see him with this yellow suit with horns on, and he'd sing some songs dressed up like that. I like it, but some people don't.
well, look, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
All right.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be towards the end, without giving away spoilers. We're not going to be putting Achtung Baby as one of our worst U2 albums, but yeah.
Okay, so I suppose a quick recap of the scoring. What we do here is we rank them. There's 14 albums, 1 to 14 each. I give my ranking, Shane gives his ranking. We add up the scores, and then it's an order of lowest score. So if I rank some to 1, Shane ranks it 2, it gets a score of 3, and that's going to be near the top. But if I ranked it 14, Shane ranks it 14, it's definitely going to be at the bottom. It's 28, that's right down the bottom. Okay, we're ready to go.
So let's go with our worst album.
So the worst album then, Songs of Experience. This is the most recent U2 album. When did it come out, actually? It's come out the last few years.
2017.
2017.
Yeah.
Yes.
Songs of experience. Let me have a look at my notes here.
So I suppose like this. So this is the noughties onwards U2, where they bring out an album every 4 or 5 years, and there seems to be a common theme, I think, in the more recent U2 albums. Since like how does Man Atomic Bomb, they've converged, I think, on a sort of a formula where they have one or two rocky songs, rock is in inverted commas, and then they have one or two ballads, and then they have Fill It All Out, and they're looking for something to fill out the live show as well. So you can sense sometimes when they're writing the songs where it sort of fits in the live show. But it seems they're almost like a parody of themselves. It feels like, and they're not being ironic this time either. It feels like they don't quite hit the spot. Like there's a few little tropes that they throw out a lot. They throw out a lot of, to get the hook going, all these oohs and ahs, sort of, and shouting and choruses. Like it comes out in nearly all the songs, I find. There's these very fuzzy guitars that trying to be rock, trying to be edgy, but it just, like, there's nothing there. It's like overproduced to try and make it sound really, abrasive. But I don't know, it doesn't really do it for me. And there's a few songs that have that sort of feel to it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So which ones were what were the standouts for you?
There's only one song I think that actually I quite enjoyed in this was Get Out of Your Own Way. I think it has a nice hook. And it stands up some of the other songs. But apart from that, like, there's very little here that does it for me.
It's funny because Get Out of Your Own Way. I just checking my notes there because you were telling me earlier on that when we were talking about this in preparation for the podcast, that there was one song, Get Out of Your Own Way, that I quite liked, and then I'm just after checking my notes there, and I just said, Get Out of Your Own Way sounds like a Westlife B-side.
Yeah.
So it's one of those ones. This, I have to say that this is, I promise I listened to every album on multiple occasions, but this is the one that really I didn't go back to too often because I listened to it maybe twice, and I said I think twice is enough.
Yeah.
It's poor. I have a few notes that I've down, like Summer of Love. It kind of all sounds. It's kind of like the producers were coming to U2 kind of going, lads, Adam, Bono, Edge, Larry. Is it possible? Can you just do whatever you can to make the blandest album of all time?
Yeah.
And they absolutely achieved that goal. It's peak bland, this album.
There's a few bits that, like Summer of Love, and you probably can't recall it, but there's a few it's a little bit different to what they normally do. It feels a bit more creative. There's a little bit of a hook to it that I didn't mind.
Yeah, I have that down as that's like a script song. But not that's not necessarily a bad thing. But
like one thing I did feel when I listened to it, like it did feel like Coldplay. Like it when you're evaluating how good they or not they are, it's like it's Coldplay's script. That sort of territory we're in. I would be inclined to agree. Yeah.
Regarding the teams that he explores, there still seems to be like some existential angst coming out of Bono, like a Little Thing song. I think there's one lyrics where there's a lyrical line where he says, "I can't believe my existence, see myself from a distance, can't get back inside." And then later on in that song, it's like later on he says his innocence has died.
Yeah,
just kind of like that's an innocence dying seems to be a really common recurring theme with U2, with Bono in his lyrics. Like
it's true.
From the album Boy to Songs of Experience, it's still an album still a theme he keeps coming back to. But I don't know if he does it in a very interesting way, in a way in which I can grab on to anything, that I can relate to anything he's saying. Like, and this is a problem we will be talking about Bono's lyrics. I absolutely hate them. I just hate them. There's very few lyrics that I are. Occasionally they're fine, but to me it's so annoying. It's so hard to grab onto anything. It's like, do you know that kind of thing where they're so ambiguous, where if you want to find something in them, you'll find something. But
Yeah.
believe me, you're doing 95% of the work. You know, like
it's like
not,
a horoscope. It's like
Yeah.
when you read the horoscope, everybody reads into what they want to read into it.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll argue our case with examples later on. Believe me. But there wasn't so many egregious examples in this album. But there certainly are over the course of their career.
Yeah. And one thing when you say about Innocence, that's a very interesting point because it is true. Well, this album here is a companion album to Songs of Innocence. So Songs of Innocence is harking back to their youth. And this is like, okay, trying to be the counterpoint to that. And this is their more recent, now as middle-aged men, this is what they want to talk about. Like there's a few, and they have done that sort of harking back. Like Boy is they're only early 20s then, and they're talking about adolescence in Boy. And even in How to Dismantle Atomic Bomb, I remember at the time there's a few callbacks to Boy in that. So they're always doing this. And I feel it reminds me a bit of, I know Mark Knopfler of Dire Straits, one thing he said when he got famous, he was no longer living a normal life, and he had no more things to talk about. So like he used to write like Money for Nothing by Dire Straits is about, he was in a shop and he heard these what do you call them, removal men or something, talking about how, wouldn't that be great if you were a rock star, and Money for Nothing. And he wrote the lyrics about their conversation, so it's no ordinary life. But he doesn't really have those touch points anymore. I feel like U2 are going down that road. They've nothing to talk about, so they hark back to their youth when they were actually living real life. And you see Graham Norton, like, I know this is a complete different tangent, but Graham Norton writes novels, and he writes novels about the 70s in Ireland because that's what he remembers as
real life. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So I feel like this is what U2 are going on that road.
Are they any good? Have you read any of them?
I haven't read any of them. No.
All right. Okay.
But,
so great example to bring up.
Yeah. They do well. But anyway, that's just what it reminded me of. And on the lyrics, there's one thing that came to mind was "There's a light." Like "There's a light." I can't remember what follows it, but it's almost exactly like the Smiths' "There's a light that never goes out." There's a light, don't let it go out, I think is the line. And they use it here in this song, and it's a callback to one of the songs in Songs of Innocence. But like it feels like in their glory days, you know, whenever you're doing a job, there's a mixture of talent and a mixture of work ethic, and I think they put both in spades in their peak. Now they're off living their lives, and they're not necessarily putting all their time into making music, and the work ethic isn't necessarily there, and they don't have the talent to bring them through. I say this as a big U2 fan, but they don't have the talent to fall back on. So it's yeah, and they have a few glimmers of some interesting hooks, but that's the best they can do on it.
Yeah, so I concur about the talent aspect. Is that it's just one of the biggest problems I have with U2 is that it's just it's the same chords all the time. You know, I know Bono's often used this phrase about where he puts rock music up on a pedestal. I mean, and I think and his excuse for not excuse, his justification or whatever is that, you know, like all you need is 3 chords and the truth or something like that, some kind of really pretentious comment like that.
Yeah.
Well, to me that's not no that's 3 chords and the truth is a cop out. It's kind of like it's yeah, you would say that because all you can do is 3 chords, you know, like, so of course and like so many of their songs are basically and I'm sure you'll give us a little bit more, you'll flesh out the details of Edge's guitar playing later on, but so many of their songs are basically 2 chord progressions over and over and back, or 4 chord progressions over and over and back, and usually very, you know, the same kind of you know, it's A minor, C, F, G, you know, or just, A, D, G, A. You know, it's just it's so many of their songs are like that. So I think there's definitely that problem with it. The rhythm section seems to be on complete autopilot in this album. But I wanna talk about some of these lyrics here on The Showman. Baby's crying 'cause it's born to sing. Singers cry about everything. So like, still in the playground, falling off a swing, but you know that I know. Walk through the room like a birthday cake. When I am all lit up, I can't make a mistake. Right? And there's a level of shallow that you just can't fake, but you know that I know, or you don't care. but you know I'm there. You know, you think you look so good. A little more, but you know I'm there. You think you look so good. A little more better, look so good. Just a little more, look so good. That's what's gonna get you. Look so good. You know
that hook, that's the
like-
chorus. Yeah,
like,
the hook
yeah.
is not great anyway.
yeah, but baby's crying because it's born to sing. Singers cry about everything. Like, this is just nonsense. Like, is that not nonsense? It's like still in the. What's the meaning behind that?
I know. I don't know what the meaning is, and also it's not the worst as well.
No, there's worse to come. Still in the playground. Still in the playground, falling off a swing. Like, what are you trying to say? Seriously. But you
Yeah.
know that I know. Walk through the room like a birthday cake. Nobody walks through rooms like birthday cakes. Like, case closed.
Unless he's talking about himself as a showman, and then he's all dolled up for the show. Is that the idea?
Do you know what? Bono, I apologize. He's just nailed it. My lack of imagination has exposed my shallowness. You're talking about shallowness in this song. My shallow analysis. I know, but like, yeah, that's what he's on about. He's on about.
Well,
the
I can give you,
showman.
look-
It's just such a clumsy way to put it.
I know, yeah.
I got just enough low self-esteem to get me where I want to go. The showman gives you front row to his heart. The showman prays his heartache will chart. Actually, well, why did I? Maybe I said this is the song. Maybe this is the one I said that the lyrics aren't actually bad. We'll have to re-record this. I think.
Okay.
No, but no. But look, it's like. But I think what he's doing, what Bono has a tendency to do, and this is when with songs of innocence, was it songs of innocence? This is songs of experience. He has a tendency of projecting himself onto other artists, his own idiosyncrasies, his own weaknesses onto other artists. Like, his need for affirmation, and he's projecting. Yeah, but I'm a showman. This is what we're all like. It's like that time when at the Apple, the thing with the U2 and like his excuse was, oh, I was just like, well, the way artists are. We got overexcited. Yeah, see, sometimes artists get overexcited, and we wanted as much people to hear our music as possible. We apologize, but like, there's lots of artists who dare say, "No, I'm an artist, and I would never feel so entitled to assume that everybody wants to hear my stuff, my music," or you know what I mean?
Well, definitely they have that sort of lack of awareness. Like, and even if you watch Rattling Home, Rattling Home was my gateway into U2, but the video or the film, but one of my gateways into it. But even then, when I was watching it as whatever age, 12 or 13, you could still get a bit like, what are they talking about? They're talking rubbish, and they're not aware that they're saying these things, and it sounds really pretentious, or there's something about it just doesn't sound as humble as the ordinary person would be.
It's very un-Irish in a way as well, isn't it? Like, it's kind of But I know we have to move on from the other albums, but there's sometimes, in some ways, the most interesting thing about U2 is not their music, like it's everything else.
Yeah.
But like, even going back to this song, I'm just going to say one more thing. He does say, "I lie for a living. I love to let on." Like, is it three chords or the truth, or are you lying? Like it's kind of there's so little so little consistency, or there's so much inconsistency anyway. But anyway, look at, I don't know.
It's down at the bottom. Okay, just to say, it was my number 13 and you're number 14. So, which is interesting.
Wow, you had an album worse. You had an album worse than Songs of Experience.
So that was Songs of Experience number. We have it done 14.
All right.
Now, No Line on the Horizon then is our number 13. Now, I'd ranked this 14 and you ranked it 12. Just to put them in so these are the latter end, like the noughties onwards. So 2010s are there. I don't know when exactly No Line on the Horizon came out. 2010s anyway. Or they're there. 2009 maybe. But the No Line on the Horizon, as far as I know, was the last album to feature Brian Eno as the producer, or the producer.
So he produced even the one, like the Europas and the Pops and that. Like
he was in and out. Yeah, so he wasn't there the whole time. I can't get this. Can't get it up. Okay, here. No, 2009. Yeah, he was in and out in some of them, but he was here with the others. So himself, Daniel Lanois was always. They're like the double team for a lot of the big albums. Steve Lillywhite was from the early days, then he'd come in and out as well, and he was. So the three of them were involved in this album. This was the last album I bought by U2, and it got a lot of backlash when it came out. It wasn't as good as it was the first of the poor albums. Like, they were unmitigatingly poor.
Can you show me the track list in there if you don't mind?
and then there was a lot of they had to sort of whenever they get some negative press, they take it to heart, and so they went away and they spent a lot of time after this working on the next album, and so this was a big moment for me. It really again, it's that theme that they've had where they want to hit a single like a Vertigo type single that's a real sort of rocker, and then they want some sort of a more ballady type song as well. Hit that moment in the live show, and they want some other sort of maybe atmospheric type songs as well. For this, Get On Your Boots is the rocky one. I don't like it at all. I think it's a poor man's Vertigo, and Vertigo is a poor man's whatever. Vertigo is not great to start off with. Never mind, Get On Your Boots. Magnificent is like some people would rank that up there with any U2 song. They say it's going back to the roots, the sort of that sort of chiming guitar sound, good.
It sounds quite Achtung Baby-esque
yeah.
But you probably would say it's like.
I don't like it's not it's grand, like it's grand. It wouldn't be one of my favorites now. I wouldn't put it on. Moment of Surrender. Now this is one where they and you can see as well on some of these songs, like Eno actually gets a credit. I think he got a credit a Moment of Surrender. Apparently the story of this album, and you see in a lot of the promo work they did with it, it was like God walked into the room when we made this song, and apparently the story that was told was Brian Eno, like they'd be writing the songs in the studio. Brian Eno, he'd get in there before them, and he just was fiddling around, and some keyboards came up with a progression and put that there. I don't know if they had a beat, but they put a beat to it, and then the lads came in and started playing to it, and the song came out of that, and people were saying, wow, this just really just came together. It was like the stars aligned. This was great. But one thing about it is I feel it starts off well. Bono absolutely belts it out, and which is unusual for a verse to have that sort of drive behind it, and which is really great. Then the chorus comes in. It just feels so flat to me. It sounds so bland, and that spoils the whole thing.
The chorus is at the moment of surrender.
Yeah,
I folded to my knees, something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
What's the song about? What
I don't know.
Is it some kind of just giving yourself to the Lord kind of job, or?
I was thinking more of a romantic story, but it could be either. Like this is the thing; it's fake. So it could be either.
Yeah, it's I'm big. I tied myself with wire to let the horses roam free, playing with the fire until the fire played with me.
Like you read that, and you can put your own, like whatever you're doing in your life, you can apply it to that. I think that's what they're sort of that's the sort of way they're going for.
Oh yeah, you were saying two souls too smart to be in the realm of certainty, even on our wedding day. We set ourselves on fire. A girl could not deny her. It's not if I believe in love, if love believes in me. You're actually. Do you know what? It is about lovers, I'd say.
Yeah,
it seems to be the best thing. I quite like those lyrics actually. I've been in every black hole, at the altar of the dark star.
Yeah. Another song as well that has really weird lyrics is, I think it's Unknown Caller. He starts talking about going to the ATM machine, or is that no? It's Moment of Surrenders. I was punching in the numbers at the ATM machine. Like, what is that all about?
Yeah, I was punching in the numbers at the ATM machine. I could see in the reflection a face staring back at me. That's why I thought it was it was something to do with Jesus or something like, because and at the moment of surrender, I did not notice the passers-by, and they did not notice me. Like, why did they not notice him? Like, I just can't make any sense of it.
Now, one thing about this song as well, it like I saw them on this tour, and you can see what they're going for when they're being like it's towards the end. It's like the second encore. Things are wrapping up, but people are on a bit of a high, and then you hit them with this sort of more emotional, subdued song. It fits well, but again, it's that combination that they have in a lot of the more recent albums of a rockier one, and then they have a more ballady one, and they're the only things of note that I can really point out on this album.
Yeah. Look, it's kind of more the same, isn't it? Really. Now, I will say just to say, there will be lots of positive things to say. For all my slagging off of Bono, just part of me that really likes Bono. Like, there's a lot to like about him, which we will get to. And U2, there's a lot to admire about U2. Like, But there is one song here that that did stand out to me was "White as Snow." Like it's almost a little Jan Tiersen-y at the start, and then there's a nice little acoustic. Now the melody, which unsurprisingly with a lot of U2 songs, is kind of like it does sound very familiar. But there's still nice harmonies. There's a little mandolin, I think, that comes in the chorus. Almost it has a bit of a contemporary cowboy vibe to it. So yeah, I like that one. Their song "Breed." Heard this sort of song from U2 like way too many times. Cliched, boring. There is a line about some Asian him coming down with some Asian virus, which made me chuckle. Like considering
what's happened since.
I say that would go down well live these days. Like, but get on your boots. Yeah, like you say about the get on your boots. It's kind of like the type of song. It's built on a bass line that your 14-year-old son or a cousin or something like it's just or your 14-year-old self. It's just started a band, and there's hey, what do you make this bass line? And it's just so basic. It's so simple. It's so it's uninspired. Maybe that's the best word to put it. A few other ones. Unknown Caller. It starts off similarly to Walk On, and it's just weird lyrics like speed dialing with no signal at all. Like, if there's no signal, Bono, just stop dialing. Wait for the signal to come back. Do you know what I mean? And then there's a few other good lines there. Every beauty needs to go out with an idiot. The right to be ridiculous is something I hold dear, and I respect him for admitting that. And the sweetest melody is the one we haven't heard. That one as one, that's a claim that certainly has not been evidenced. But look, I don't want to be too pernickety. I do think the song that stood out to me, I do like "Moment of Surrender." I like that it kind of has a how would you call it? Just sort of it kind of locks into the groove. I like the bass line in it, and the bass line just kind of carries you through. It's just like it's like floating down a lovely stream. In this moment of surrender, it has a very religious kind of hymn sound to it. Maybe that's why, because with his lyrics, it's so vague and ambiguous. A lot of time, it's hard to know whether he's talking about someone he loves or whether it's Jesus or whether it's. But that's a nice song. "White as Snow" is a nice song. "No Line on the Horizon," and I don't know what it is. And with a lot of these latest albums, is that. Like there's a catchiness to it that the vocal hook could have easily been on one of their earlier albums, but it just lacks that kind of raw. The production is so insulated and so clean that these are vocal hooks that could have been, they could have been hits, on with the sort of tunes they were making earlier in their career.
Yeah.
But it's such a clean, insulated. Just bland production that it just doesn't really do anything for you.
Well, one thing, just when you mention it there, my general criticism of U2 albums is that they are it sounds really sterile. It seems really, and it's a comment I have for a lot of albums. It sounds really sterile, and then when you hear it live, I think with U2 there is a bit more soul and life behind it, and it gets the adrenaline going, but. Definitely with this case where it's really over like so much top as well as that, to put someone like towards the end of this stage of their career, they're putting many years into albums and overthinking everything. Like songs like Vertigo, apparently like that had 2 or 3 different iterations. It was ready to go as a different song. We'll get onto that later, but they had whole albums that scrapped and went back to them, and it's almost like a too many cooks situation. They're thinking too much about it, whereas nearly you need a hard deadline, get things done quick, and then sometimes that's when the inspiration strikes. And like anyway, I agree with you that it is a bit more overdone and sterile.
So yeah, we're both agreeing that this is a pretty poor album.
Okay,
not absolute trash, but certainly. Below average.
Yeah, below average, definitely. Okay. Now, this is our number 12, and for me, it's I don't know. It's a little bit melancholic to be talking about it at this stage. So, Rattle and Hum, we're putting at number 12. So, for me, that was mine ranked 10, and Shane ranked it 13. And probably fair. However, I have a soft spot for Rattle and Hum. This is one of the first U2 albums I bought. I listened to it a lot.
This is our first really controversial positioning of an album, I would say.
Yeah. In the sense of like it's definitely a step up from the other albums.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
But it just doesn't have the quality. So it's just background on Rattle and Hum.
Take it away.
So like in 87 Joshua Tree came out. They went on the Joshua Tree tour 87, 88, and when they went on the tour they brought a film crew with them to record a film almost on the road documentary type thing, and they turned into Rattle and Hum. I think the film was very different to what they were expecting to do. It turned out to be sort of mostly live performances, a few little bits of them chatting, but it's like really rubbish filler basically, like and then bits of them going around America basically, and shots of them in the desert going to see Graceland, all that sort of weird stuff. But the album then was maybe part live, so part sort of live songs that were recorded during the Joshua Tree tour, and then some sort of studio recordings they had at the time. I think the story is that it was on the cards to make Joshua Tree a double album. So I think Bono wanted to make it a double album, but they went with a single album, and I think a lot of the overflow then ended up in Rattle and Hum. I think that's sort of the way things worked out.
So it's kind of like it was not the idea behind Rattle and Hum was that it was like their blues album. They'd gone full on Americana, and well, it's just an extension of going on full on Americana from Joshua Tree. Was a very kind of American-esque kind of America inspired album. Then they went down the blues route in this album, but
they went on the blues route, but what they think blues to be.
Yeah,
there's not much blues.
There's
one bit, and I think is it in the song Silver and Gold when it's live, and Bono goes on a big rant in the middle of it all, and about apartheid, I think. But then at the end he says to the Edge, play the blues, and he does whatever he does. It's not the blues. It's like there's no blues there's no blues progressions being made there, or any sort of like blues scales being used, and like it's just him hammering away at these notes.
No, the blues Edge. Oh, okay.
But so like there's a few live songs on it, and there's like this is where they got a lot of. So at the end of the 80s, this is where they went full on Americana. They went full in. They completely embraced it. They took themselves very seriously. They take themselves very seriously in the film. They got a lot of pushback from it, and even you see things like where they're like like songs like Silver and Gold, like they're real like talking about political stuff. What is it? Bullet to Blue Skies in this as well. Live versions of that. God Part 2 is like it's a response to the song God by John Lennon. All this really very pretentious sort of stuff. They got a pushback from that and said, right, okay, that's what motivated them, I suppose, to move on from this era.
Yeah, for me, when I want to hear an album, I just want to hear an album of new songs. So I already have a bias against this album, because I don't want to hear a mix of live and then covers and then, new stuff. I just want to hear, this is the thing. So if you took a lot of like there are some great tracks in this, like All I Want Is You. I know it's kind of a simple chord progression, but it's a great song. There's some great string arrangements towards the end. Desire is a cracker, like it's a really, just a banger of a tune, really lively tune. Angel of Harlem, I'm not crazy about, but it's not bad. It's certainly not. It's kind of like, as you say, U2's idea of the blues.
It's sort of they're so in the film they go into like they're in is it Nashville or Memphis, one of these sort of real heart of country sort of music, and they're recording Sun Studios, and they're recording Angel of Harlem, and like it's all about their trek across America and the heartland of American music, and this is their contribution to that, I suppose. That's where it fits in there.
And like When Love Comes Down is once again It's a fun song. Like, it's not groundbreaking, but it's a good song. BB King,
Yeah.
and doing it with them. So there's some good stuff here. Like, a lot of the new songs ended. I think there's four of those songs. They did four songs that ended up on their greatest hits from 1980 to 1990. Like,
Yeah.
so it's good stuff. But as we're going back to this whole point, you were kind of making about them getting pushed back for being. I often I go back to this notion about Bono and Andy Edge and U2 in general. It that they it feels to me like that in the 1980s, they must have got just nothing but been surrounded by nothing but praise and worship, and the people in Ireland, because back then there was no internet, so they were getting their feedback through their own fans going to their show, and then the mainstream media, which would have been big supporters like the RTE, Late Late Show, all that kind of stuff. So as far as they're concerned, they were just
They could do
loved.
no wrong.
They could do no wrong. They're just heroes. Um, and the other thing about it as well is that back then as well, it's just like Irish people were just happy to have anybody having a success abroad, because they felt like, it's like the Irish soccer team or whatever in the 1988 or whatever. Just everyone is just so excited because Ireland is doing well. So even if you didn't even like U2's music that much, you'd still probably be delighted that they're doing well. That was just the way it was back then. But in the post-internet era, I remember seeing an interview with him. I think it might have been around the time he made Songs of Experience on the Late Late Show, which is the Irish main talk show in Ireland. And he felt like his ego had taken a bit of a battering, because I'd say to go from the very top to almost be the butt of a lot of jokes, to realize actually no, a lot of the Irish public, now that you've seen on the internet, it feels like he's been humbled a lot in the last 10 years or so. Now there's still, I'd say that he still wrestles with that ego thing, and even in some of the lyrics, and as we'll talk about in some of the other songs, I think even one of the songs on No Line, well, I can't remember which one, No Line on the Horizon, is like, my ego is like an 8-year-old child walking across an eight lane highway or something like that. That he does become a little bit more self-aware regarding that kind of stuff, but at the same time, it seems like it's a bit of a battle for him. So, I know that's probably a bit of a sidetrack, but it's just one thing that I did notice, that I feel like I wonder, has it been tough for the likes of you to have the fall from grace, and especially in the internet age as well? There's one thing having a fall from grace, when you're not as big and you're not as popular anymore. Like, say, a lot of the bands Pink Floyd would have went through that. But to have the fall from grace, when one, you're still trying as hard as possible to be relevant, and two, you get to see what all the bad things people, your haters say about you on the internet. It's tough.
Yeah, it is tough. No, I'm trying to think what their contemporaries were like. Okay, the one that has kept going, like, you have the big hitters like Bruce Springsteen, Paul McCartney. Like, they're not the Paul McCartney level, but don't, well, many would argue they're not at the Bruce Springsteen level either. Bruce Springsteen, I don't feel like he tries. You do try really hard, and they're just not cool. I don't know what it is. Yeah, but he just does what he wants to do. The U2 always try to tap into whatever the zeitgeist is. Yeah, no, it does.
Yeah, that's a good.
Weird.
Yeah, that's an important point. I'm sure we'll explore that more as well. Like, but yeah, they do. I think you were saying a point to me before about Radiohead, that whatever album they make, it always seems like they're making it for themselves.
Yeah.
Whatever they're interested in right now is like Kid A was a perfect example. They had a big opportunity to make OK Computer part 2, and I'm sure it would have been loved, whatever, but they went their own way. But with U2, it always feels like he just wants to be loved. They want to be loved by everybody. Is that the whole thing about the app? The excuse for the time of Songs of Innocence. When they were saying, "Oh, we think it's a great idea that we." Everybody who has an Apple iPod gets to hear it, because that's what we're all about. We want as much people to hear it as possible. Like,
everybody said we don't want to hear it.
yeah, exactly. That's not how art works. Like, if everybody likes your stuff, that's probably a sign that you're doing something wrong. Like you're not, it's not supposed. You're not. Art isn't supposed. It's supposed to appeal to every single person. If it does, then there has to be something wrong.
Well, they're going for the zeitgeist. So, like, whatever sort of feedback they got, I don't know exactly it, but I know there was pushback on their sort of sincerity and full belief in what they were doing. And then,
But it's not just a sincerity. It's like it's okay to be sincere. I wouldn't, that's actually, if anything, that's a refreshing thing to have people be
yeah,
sincere. I
but a full belief in themselves and
as
arrogance, a little bit of arrogance.
exactly the
Yeah.
arrogance. That it's a little bit, it's an arrogance that's a little bit more endearing than other artists' arrogance, because there's a naivety to it. And
Yeah, there is, that's true.
like
they don't even realize they're being like when you watch
it
Rattle
almost
and
it
Hum,
is Spinal Tap esque, like, is it
a
not?
little. Well, when you watch Rattle and Hum, there are bits in it where they're sort of talking about things, and it's it's just sort of waffly, and they're not really. It just doesn't come across as endearing as maybe as it could be, and but like I like Rattle and Hum a lot. Only I like the musical performances in it. And it's sort of the sort of atmosphere in it is reflected a little bit in the track list. And like it starts off with them live Helter Skelter, and like there's this like this is a good example of it. Like the start of Helter Skelter, he talks about this is a song Charles Manson stole from the Beatles. We're stealing it back. Charles Manson, like the Manson killing or whatever.
Yeah.
Apparently he was when people asked him why did he do what he did. He said he's listened to Helter Skelter. That sort of whatever effect it had on him, and then so like this sort of crack, that sort of stuff. Like he says it all really sincerely, as if he's really been really profound, but actually it just sounds really crappy. I like that cover of Helter Skelter, though, I have to say.
Yeah, I wasn't crazy about it, and I wasn't crazy about All Along the cover of All Along the Watchtower either.
Van Diemen's Land in the film is actually an interesting one. So it's like The Edge singing a song, which he rarely does, and he's out on the docks in Dublin back in like 87, 88, which is interesting to see because you don't like it's very different now. That's where they used to record. They had the recording studios down there. That was interesting, and he's talking about. I think it's about like emigration, people going on whatever prison boats to Australia or something like that.
Can I ask you one thing, more thing? Because I know we are dwelling on this album a little bit, although a lot of it has been because of my own tangents, and I'm going to introduce a new tangent. But I think now is probably the right time to do it because it is a half live album. One of the things when we were starting off this podcast, when we were talking about U2, and I was I was kind of saying to Niall that do you know what, this is just U2 don't really, a lot of this stuff, I'm listening to these albums and they're just not quite doing it for me. And he says, well, you have to hear it live. You have to hear them live. Like they're a different story live than, So what is it about the U2 live experience that makes it so much better than the recorded material?
Well, there's more of a life to it. Like, and the Rattle and Hum film has some great examples that I loved on it. Now, when you see it first, and you take it at face value, it's really, but lately since watching it, I'm a little bit skeptical. But anyway, some great examples of it, like the song Exit, for example, which is in Joshua Tree. It's good in Joshua Tree, but you hear on the live version, it's it just has that sort of, I don't know, it comes together. There's more sort of life to it. I don't know what it is. There's more of a soul to it. It's very rocky. And then one thing Bono always does live, he just puts in these snippets of other songs, and at the end, like the song's sort of coming to an end, and then he sort of has this sing along Gloria by Van Morrison, and gets everybody singing along, and that's like it adds this extra dimension. Like it's already pretty high, and then it just lifts it that little bit more, and you're I don't know, it gets you excited. There's a great version of Sunday Bloody Sunday in it. Like when you see him doing the live version of Sunday Bloody Sunday, like it is full of emotion. In the middle of it, then he goes on in a big spiel about troubles and how violence isn't the answer, that sort of stuff. And it does seem sincere. It does seem good.
There's no doubt about it. They're charismatic performers, like, because they really buy into what they're doing. Bono is a charismatic performer, like, and he does sing great live. You sent me some night that it's like that when he sings "I'm Wide Awake" when he's doing a version of Bad Live. I think it was the Band-Aid one. Like it's spine tingling stuff. It is really spine tingling stuff. But I do have a bit of a hot take regarding kind of live music and live bands, is that when people say, oh, this band is amazing live, in general, I kind of think, well, do you like their music? Do you like their albums? Yeah, and if they do, well, so you're a fan of them, right? How could they not be amazing live? All they have to do is just play, have a bit of
Not
energy.
always though.
No,
Yeah,
I
well,
don't.
U2. Yeah, I find
How could you not be amazing? It's there's no. I think because have you ever come across a person who's a fan of a band who went to see? It's a very rare experience. Doesn't matter
I've
how
seen
boring
bands
they are.
live. I've seen bands live that I love, and they weren't great. I saw Guns N' Roses and The Who live, and I felt like they were just waiting for the check. That was basically it. But and they were two of my favorite bands.
But Guns N' Roses are well past it, and the Who they're both well past it.
both well
Like, do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? But like, they're I know what you're saying. Okay, of course, but it shouldn't be really that hard to ask. It shouldn't be that hard for like a band to just go out there, put a bit of energy into it, and then you can't lose. If
And
they
one
like
thing
a
about
song,
U2
put it out there, play your songs the way and you can have slightly little variations either way, but you don't even have to have variations as long as you play them with energy. Your fans are going to just think you're brilliant live. Do you know what I mean?
And I think one thing about U2 is though, like they have it looks spontaneous, but it's completely not. It's dialed into the absolute nth degree. They know to the extent that during this song, the Edge walks here, Adam Clayton walks here. You turn around, you look this way. They have everything planned out to a T. They know when they're coming in. Even the little bits that seem spontaneous, like Bono goes into these little snippets of other songs. Like he does a lot. And it adds
It's all
nice.
planned out, but it's
It's
good.
all planned,
Yeah,
but yeah, and just one thing on the planned as well is that so like that Sunday Bloody Sunday performance that made it to the Rattling Home was great. But there was one that came up live or on the internet since then was like during that tour. There's one like the version of what is it? What's the song? Along the Watchtower. Like they do that in San Francisco, and at that same concert, they were recording the whole concert like for material for Rattling Home. And he did Sunday Bloody Sunday, and he goes into his rant in the middle of it, and he sees a sign or poster somebody had U2SF, and of course U2 San Francisco is what it meant. But Bon looks over and goes, U2SF, is that U2 Sinn Féin? And he starts going on about U2 and Sinn Féin being associated with the IRA, allegedly. I'm not going to get myself into any sort of legal issues here, but anyway, he was sort of saying
we are the fencesitters.com. Go on. I won't fence it. You fence it away. I'll get my points across when I feel so fit to do whatever.
But anyway, he's sort of going on a rant then, and of course that was not what it was all about. And yeah, but that just shows that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and it's all sort of manicured. So the version you see in Rattling Home, you get a snapshot and you think, well, they're just great, this is what they're like. But they're very manicured, them at the top time that they've performed, basically. So, and it's probably all manicured around that as well, probably overdubs, all this sort of stuff going on. But yeah, a few songs that you haven't mentioned before we leave that I quite like are "Love Rescue Me," which is like a sort of a country song with Bob Dylan apparently has contributed towards it. And then what else is there? Songs like "Hawk Moon" is fine. It's just this like it's like music, film music. It's grand. And that's about it. Like there's a few. Heartland is all right. God Part 2 I don't like, and yeah, that's pretty much it, I suppose.
All right, and I won't say anything more about the album. I'll just acknowledge my own bias against the idea of having covers and live songs mixed with originals and stuff like that. That's the main reason why it's below other albums that might actually have a strong songs.
Yeah.
But I just want to just go back to make my point a bit better about live bands. My point, say it like this: say you're a fan of a filmmaker. Do you know what I mean? But they have to produce a new film on stage or whatever, or a stand-up comedian. Like, if it's new, if it's new stuff, you're not, it's not going to, or if it's a new film or if it's a new set or whatever. Like, yes, there'll always be an element of fans who will laugh at, if someone's famous enough and if you worship them enough, you laugh at whatever they say, or if you'll gobble up whatever the movie maker, if you're that big a fan. But I think with a band, when all they have to do is to play the songs that you as the fan already love with energy and with passion. That's all you have to do. You can't really lose. Just come out and
there's a bit more to it than that in a U2 concert. I feel there's a bit more to it. Like you have And maybe maybe
Well, I suppose you did mention that they bring in other stuff like
like a YouTube concert has
add extra little bits, but they seem like little flourishes. Like
there is more, but there's more to like sort of general concert setup.
They have the lights and they have the.
But they also have a narrative that sort of runs through it. Like so, for example, you kick off with like just a few songs. Like this is like for 2005, the Vertigo tour. Like they had a few songs at the start. Then they have like a political set, sort of 4 or 5 songs that are political, and they go through it sort of a whole rigmarole with that. Like he sort of acts out these different things. It's a bit cheesy, but it gives it a bit of ebb and flow. So then it gets really sort of rocky, hits the peak. Then you have like something that comes in. It's like a play. Like you're manipulating people's emotions. It gets you really high, and then it comes in with a nice sort of emotional, soft song, and then come back in a few others.
Yeah, but are they not just doing their okay? We just have to figure out which songs we play in order here, and play it with passion, and if the song's already good, is it? I'm not so much having a go at U2 with this. I'm just having a go at this. Something that kind of I'm on my soapbox basically. But this is what it is. It's nothing to do with U2. I'm using this opportunity to go on a soapbox about something that I don't even feel that passionate about. It's just an observation that I did felt like I didn't make my point well enough. I still probably am making it well enough. So it's not really about U2. Maybe U2 actually do have I'll grant you the U2 thing. Yeah. They're different. They're special. What they do live is more special than what they record. Yeah, we deal with that. All right. But in general, I've just noticed that like whether it be Westlife or Bruce Springsteen or it could be The National or whoever, doesn't matter. Like as long as they show up and play their tunes and say the odd, "How are you, Dublin? Are you all having a good time?" As long as you do that, like, oh, they're brilliant live. They're brilliant live. Do you know what I mean? It's not something. It's not a thing like that. Like, fair play to Bruce Springsteen. He can go at his age for 3 hours at night. I definitely wouldn't go see him for 3 hours at night. That's too much Bruce Springsteen for me. Enough. I've had enough. Let's go on to the next album.
Okay.
Unless you want to say something else.
No, absolutely.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so that was Rattle and Hum. Now we're moving on to number 11, I think, which is How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb, which was my number 11 and your number 10.
Okay.
Okay, so How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb. So this was their second album of the noughties, and it, so like, it had their 90s era, which was very sort of ironic, trying to go full on information overload, all that sort of stuff. And then they had to pull back a bit, or they felt people were telling them to pull back, and they went with All That You Can't Leave Behind was the first sort of pullback, and then this is the second pullback. I don't think it's a bad album. I think there's some good songs on it, and I saw them live on this tour. I think this is the first album where they settled into that routine that I mentioned, where there's one or two. There's one like Vertigo, for example, is like this rocky lead single, and then they have a few other songs that are more like ballady songs, and then maybe one sort of epic song that works well live. And this is where the formula was I think was concocted, and then they sort of followed through a little bit with subsequent albums. Vertigo's grand, like. It's all right. Like it's a single. It's if you hear it on the radio, it's not the worst.
2, 3, 14. Is that it?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 14.
Apparently, it's because this is their 14th album. If you include some of the live albums, people say it's their 14th.
Right.
That's the theory behind that.
Yeah, that's the theory.
I don't know if it's true or not, but that's the theory. Yeah. It's a silly song. So Vertigo, I've mentioned before, that went through a number of different iterations. There's a song called Native Son. You'll see it. It's probably on Spotify. Like now with Spotify, all the B-sides and stuff are up there. But it's the exact same song with different lyrics about like it's almost like Fortunate Son by Creedence Clearwater Revival. That sort of a theme. I don't know why they changed it. Like this is the thing. Like they started overthinking things at this stage of the career. And Vertigo is just about completely nothing. I don't know what it's about. It's just throwaway lyrics to suit a pop song.
Well, I do like the line, "Except you give me something I can feel. Yeah. Go on.
Yeah. You reminded me of the South Park. That's all.
Yeah, well, I did have that in my mind. Yeah. It is fun. That was funny.
But yeah, so Vertigo, yeah, it's grand. What other songs are good? So sometimes you can't make it on your own. I think his father died around this time, and that was a song about his father.
I
as
thought
far
his
as I know.
father died around the time of All That You Can't Leave Behind.
That's right. Yeah,
because I remember being at
that was
at,
the gig had to change. That's right.
I
Yeah,
was at Slane,
yeah.
and his father had died like a day earlier or whatever. And they, in fairness to them, they did produce a great show. I kind of want to take back that point about the live stuff. There are obviously some bands who are great live, all right, and front men and front women who just like, I think of Roisin Murphy of Moloko. What a performer she was. So it is. And that's just one. So I'll take that back, that point. But yeah, you're right. That was the, and in fairness, so obviously this song was written about him after.
Yeah, so that
you know.
that would have been what 2002 or 2001, 2002 sort of time when they were in Slane, and then this came out around 2004, I think. I know the tour was 2005, so I presume 2004. So those few years, yeah, that was just after his father died, basically. There's Love and Peace Around. So this was in their set of like the period of the tour when they'll be doing political songs. This fitted in there, and they had this song. They had Bullet the Blue Sky from Joshua Tree, and I don't know what. Probably was Sunday Bloody Sunday as well, and they just did all the sort of thing like of. I remember Bono had this shtick where he put on a bandana and had coexist written on it, but the C was like all the different symbols from the different religions. So you had like a cross and you had like a Star of David, all these sort of things on it, basically. And it looked it seems cheesy, but it added a nice dimension in terms of like it is cheesy, but had a nice dimension when it came to the ebb and flow of the concert, because then you're going through all this sort of rising for like it's getting you up on all these sort of more rousing type of songs. One as well that they have there is City of Blinding Lights. I think that's like a Where the Streets of No Name Mark II, and has that sort of atmospheric feel. Like he's the idea. It's the same sort of feel where he's playing the guitar, a lot of the echoey type sounds coming in. There's sort of a piano riff, synths. It's the sort of thing that's meant to fill a stadium. When they played that live, they played it like in a summer's evening, like middle of summer in Europe, Northern Europe. Gets dark maybe around, I don't know what, we'll say 9 or 10 o'clock. They had it timed so that song came on just as it was getting dark when the lights start to come on, and then the lights come on and this song starts being played. It was like these sort of details you don't get with other bands. You might think, well, that's somebody else doing, like the admin person who's organizing their flights is organizing these sort of things, but it adds to the whole experience. I like that song, City of Blinding Lights. I think it's up there as one of their better ones. There are a few rocky ones. All Because of You is one that I liked at the time, but back then I didn't know any good rock music, and I was reaching out for some sort of rock music. I don't think it's great now. One great standout song from this is Original of the Species, and I think this is something that they can do, and you touched on it earlier. They can pull out some good ballads every now and again. Original of the Species, I think, is one of their, like, it's well up there, one of the better songs that they have of all.
Wow. That song does nothing for me at all. I'm surprised.
It's one of those songs as well, and it's a bit like the other song. What's it called? Every Breaking Wave. It works better as a more acoustic, stripped back song with more pianos, with just the piano. And they didn't know how to play it live as well. They used to go through loads of different arrangements. Well, the last song then is Yahweh, which I think is like a Hebrew word for God, or some religious.
It is, it's Old Testament, for God.
But one thing that is a common theme in all their albums that I've realized through this project is that they seem to end their albums on a prayer, and this is another one example of it. But it's very common in the earlier, like the 80s albums as well. And there's always themes of God creeping up throughout the lyrics, not in a Bible bashing way, more in a sort of a cultural touch point sort of a way, which is not.
Yeah, well, Yeah, I think,
I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just it's something I've observed a lot.
you know, as a non-religious person myself, if the religious people like were like Bono, if this is the type of if I lived in a religious world where the people were like Bono, I'd be okay with that. I like. uh, I say, what was the song you were saying? It was "Love and Peace or Else," where he was trying to basically make the case that we have to be tolerant of each other's
Yeah.
differences. Like that religious different people with different religious views can coexist.
Yeah.
And I sometimes I think that if it can take a little bit of I guess a certain amount of cognitive dissonance to because ultimately say a lot of these different religions have fundamentally different ideas of the nature of reality, like and so but at the same time I am definitely pro any religious person that is extending the olive branch to other people and just say, okay, you believe what you believe. Like one thing I like about Bono is that I remember in an interview, it was about Bob Gell. I think it was something about he was asked about his Christianity, and then it was about I think it was to do with around the time of Band Aid, Live Aid. I could be wrong, and uh, he he was asked about Bob Geldof as well, and he says, well, Bob isn't a believer in Christ or he's not a Christian, so Bob doesn't believe in it, but in Jesus, but Jesus believes in Bob, And I just thought, and like I don't want to be too condescending or patronizing, but I just thought, do you know what? I like that kind of, I like with Bono. I think it is important to him, and he's obviously had experiences that probably have like he lost his mother early in his life and things like
Yeah.
that have probably cemented that sort of, or at least, well, how would I put this? They've experiences that have accelerated the process through which he delved into Christianity. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that's the poor way of putting it.
Yeah, well, like I suppose it's famous. Like in the early '80s, so around the time of October, so three of them were in a sort of religious group and nearly broke up the band. Adam Clayton was the only one who wasn't part of the group, and he sort of said, "Come on, lads." They were thinking about leaving the band, and he snapped them out of it, and they kept the show on the road. But there was always religious team behind that. But any thoughts yourself on what pros
songs.
and cons?
Yeah. So I'm not going to say much. Vertigo. It's a bit like to me. It's like Elevation Part 2. It's
Yeah.
It's kind of like U2 trying to rock out in the noughties. To me, is cringe. It's just usually kind of a very standard, formulaic, unoriginal bass line, and just really kind of inane lyrics and boring. Just I find that boring. Sometimes you can't make it on your own. To me, is the highlight of the album. I like the lyrics. You're hard enough. You don't have to put up a fight. You don't have to always be right. Let me take some of the punches for you tonight. Now, that's one of those ones where you can grasp onto something, and of course, again, it's people having to insert their own meaning into this, but it's a nice little kind of message where of support. It's a kind of sometimes you can't make it on your own, and I think there's a nice message to this song. Listen to me, Nina. I need to let you know you don't have to go it alone. I think that's a nice little message.
Yeah.
And I actually prefer U2 when they are being a little bit on Bono's lyrics when it is a little bit more clear and it is a little bit more sincere, and I think that's when they're at their best. Having said all that, I think this is actually a weak enough album. I don't like The City of Blinding Lights. I think it's got a catchy enough whatever it is. I can't go high, voice is hoarse, whatever, but it's just it doesn't do a whole lot for me. I didn't like Original Species. One Step Closer, not great. What was the line from Crumbs from Your Tables? If I can find it here, just
I'm not a big fan of that song.
but here, hold on a second. Then your face caught up with your psychology. All right, so that's kind of the idea that you have a moment where you feel sad, but your face doesn't catch up. So it's basically looks a bit like this. I'm sad right now. and then the face caught up. But with a mouthful of wait, it gets worse. With a mouthful of teeth, you ate all your friends, and you broke every heart, thinking every heart mends. So with a mouthful of teeth, you ate all your friends. Is that like, you pushed the idea is you pushed everyone away. Is it like, what a clumsy way to put that? Like with a mouthful of teeth, you ate. Like I don't. Anyway.
Even the imagery that the like I've noticed this from other songs about crumbs from your table. It's just not a pleasant, like, you can get the what they're trying to allude to, but I mean, if you read it literally, when you read it first, you read it literally, and you think, oh, I just don't want to be thinking about things like that when I'm reading. Reading track listing.
So basically, there is, sometimes you can't make it on your own is a highlight, but even there's a little break in the middle of the song where it's where it just doesn't fit the song at all, and it just takes me out of the song. And so I can't even say that that's a kind of a perfect kind of song.
One thing actually, now that you have to remind me, so that's like the break, like the instrumental break, and then he comes in and he belts it out. I think his father was was he an opera singer or something, and then he's trying to emulate that. I could be wrong on that, but I think so. That's like just before the climax of the song, and he absolutely belts it out. You hear me when I sing, or something like that is the line.
Yeah,
and I think that's a homage to his father. I'm not sure exactly. You have to remind me of it.
And I do like when Bono soars, like when he, especially at the end of the song, like. He sounds great when he's in that kind of soaring, when he's really letting loose vocally.
This is the last, like, he's on the way out now in terms of his voice. This is the last hurrah, really, for him here.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, but having said that, vocally, I kind of like a lot of his vocals vocally, Bono isn't the problem for me in the other albums, like in the Songs of Innocence, Songs of Experience. Like, generally speaking, he doesn't do the soaring thing anymore, but like. When he's doing the lower register voice, that works quite well.
Yeah,
that's not the issue. It's not Bono's losing his voice is the issue with the other album.
No, I agree.
Me, it's more just the blandness of them, like, and the middle of the road esque-ness, whatever. Yeah.
Okay. So that's
so we think it's just you think it's a song, like you would say that how to dismantle an atomic bomb is a song with a lot of highs and a lot of low, with some big highs and some and then a lot of filler.
Yeah, it's a bit like All That You Can't Leave Behind in that side. The first side of it has some good songs, and then not so great after that. And then two or three highlights maybe. And Original of the Species, like in the category of good latter day U2 ballads. Although you don't agree with me on that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can make it on your own in there. That was a song actually when that came out. It was like Moment of Surrender, where the whole U2 machine was pushing that as a really emotional song. And there is like a lot behind it. But I don't know, it didn't hit.
It's not, I know what you mean. It's not them at their best, but to me it's still the standout track of this album. In fact, in some ways, this album is a bit of a bit of a big elephant in the room. It's like that it actually is much worse than I expected it to be. Coming into it, like, because I knew of the singles, I knew Vertigo, I knew Sometimes You Can't Make It On Your Own, I knew City of Blinding Lights, and all because of you. I just think that's a really bland song.
It is pretty bland. Yeah.
And but then none of the rest of the stuff is that good in my opinion. Miracle Drug is okay, I suppose. But and then I don't even like Vertigo or City of Blinding Lights. So to me, not a fan of this one. Yeah.
Okay, Grant. All right, we'll leave it on that one there. So that was How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb. Okay, we're on number 10 now. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, we're right. Okay, number 10. So 10 is Songs of Innocence. That was my number 12, and your number 8. So you like this a lot more than me. And so Songs of Innocence, this is like the companion to Songs of Experience. It's the second most recent. So like early 2010s, I think, early mid 2014. The same pattern to me of one or two rocky songs like The Miracle of Joey Ramone, and then the odd ballad. Every Breaking Wave would be the highlight for me on this.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. I think Every Breaking Wave. Yeah, The Miracle of Joey Ramone does nothing for me, I have to say. Just yeah, it just sounds dated, I suppose. Just like again, like trying to do it. Is there a bit of a whoa?
Yeah.
Is that the song? I might have to get my songs completely mixed up. Late
Yeah, it
U2.
is. It's like the Dune. Like I think it is that one. Yeah, I get them confused. Like so, I stopped buying the U2 albums at No Line on the Horizon. So these all blur into the same for me as well. But I think that's the right song. But
I hope so.
it also has
because we will lose all credibility.
It
if
has-
we haven't already by now.
it has the like. There's always those OOs, and there's also this sort of really aggressive. Sort of abrasive type guitar sound. Like they put all the effort. Like there's a lot of effort goes into getting that tone the way that is, and I can see them sitting down, like taking so much time trying to get that perfect. When the actual bones of the operation isn't contributing much. There's a song about his mother. So Iris is his mother's name, and he's about 3 songs throughout the career about it. Like his mother died when he was 14. And that's naturally enough that had a big impact on him. And there's 3 songs that I know of that are about his mother. One of them is Lemon from Zeropa, and Lemon is about when he was a kid or sometime in his early years, and he saw this video, or maybe more later on than that. He saw an old recording film that they had at home, and it was of his mother, and she was going around in like this lemon jumper, and anyway, goes the song is She Wore Lemon, and he talks about it.
We'll talk about Lemon when we get.
But the
to
reason
Lemon.
why I'm saying that is that song is about the video he saw, and then when they were doing this live, the Iris, I think they played that video. Like there's a video of his mother wearing a lemon jumper, so I presume it's the song that he sang about lemon.
Ah, right. So yeah.
Just
so it was relevant. I apologize profusely. Yeah, like if you were kind of asking me, hold on a second. Yeah, just wanted to get the air right. You know, a song for someone is a lovely song. All right. I just forgot the air of it, so that's why I was like, what was that one? Yeah, that's a lovely song. Yeah. So I know it's like I don't know. I can't remember the lyrics, but it's something like
There's a light. Yeah.
There is a light. Very simple melody, but it kind of works. It's nice. It's like that's a nice song. Every Breaking Wave is a good song. Kind of one of the better latter U2 songs. California is decent. Like Iris, Volcano. I think none of them are just. I wouldn't say any of these songs are classics, or maybe you can argue that a song for someone and Every Breaking Wave are good standard U2 ballads, but on the rest of them I wouldn't call them classics. But what I will say is that as listening to the album, why I ranked it so highly, listening to the album from the start to finish, it was just a little bit more of a pleasant listen. Like is that I kind of enjoyed the songs, even though they were still in that middle of the road. Maybe the hooks caught me a little bit better. I thought the ballads were a bit stronger, and generally speaking, I just think it was just a more pleasant, next song to next song to next song to next song. Listen.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that definitely, and they do sort of fit in a bit better, and there are some interesting hooks to the different songs, like Volcano and Raised by Wolves. They're not great, like they're grand, but I think the hook can be quite interesting, and in California as well. The Troubles is one I really liked. Like if I was to pick two songs that stand out for me, it would be Every Breaking Wave and The Troubles. The Troubles I thought was about the troubles in Northern Ireland, but it's not. Apparently, it's about like a sort of domestic violence thing. I don't know what it's about, but it's actually quite there's a cool little melody to it, a cool little hook, and it features, is it Licky Lee or Lucky Lie? I don't know how you pronounce her name, but anyway, she does a good job.
Danger Mouse is the person who did the producing most of here, is it?
So one thing as well, so this is after, so what Brian Eno had left here, and one interesting thing I was reading about when Brian Eno, I was watching some interviews with him around the time of Unforgettable Fire, and he would say, or even Joshua Tree, and like they get some sort of writer's block, and what he'd do is maybe it was later than Joshua Tree, because he wasn't there full time, and they'd be sending him on things, and he'd be sort of saying, no, you have to pare it back. And he'd be telling them to take a break and to go away and to come back, or to take things away as opposed to add stuff in. And I think that lack of that influence is here a little bit because it seems to be overproduced in many ways, and it's like overdone a little bit. But
Well, what do you mean? Like what about it is that? Because like if we're talking about adding stuff in and taking stuff out, I personally I love music that is layered, and like if you think of a band that we both love, Radiohead. Like you think of songs like Let Down or Weird Fishes and Reckon or whatever. All these songs are so layered with loads of stuff under the surface that you might not notice in the first listen. So like, but it's layered, but it's not
yeah.
overproduced. You know what kind of way. So what do you mean by it's
Well, one thing,
overproduced?
the good example of where a classic example of where it's bad is, like the people talk about Phil Spector's Wall of Sound with Let It Be and songs like The Long and Winding Road, and it was just McCartney on piano, and then he comes in with all these strings, and it's like everything coming in over, like it's just it feels like there's too much going on. Whereas the more you have there, the less attention you can give to each little part, and the less weight it gives when it lands the punch. Whereas sometimes like for example, original of the or what do you call it? Original of the Speeches or Every Breaking Wave, for example. That's better when it's just the piano and it's just the singing, and you get the more emotional feel to it, as opposed to all the other bits that are going on in it, and all the guitars and all the sort of I don't know if there's a synth in it, but there's loads of layers going on there.
Well, it's been common throughout U2's career, where especially with the there's so many songs that it's so basic. The bass line is like bum 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 bum, or a version of I'm just doing bum 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 with or without you. No, but just change the notes and you've got a different U2 song. Like it's kind of like so with Every Breaking Wave. I think the bass line is a bit like that, is it? If I remember correctly, it's kind of a little bit like bum 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 bum, a little bit slower. There's a bit of something like that, which doesn't. Yeah, just like I agree with you. I've heard the kind of acoustic version. The acoustic version is nicer version, like, but I
That's a
wouldn't
good
say
song.
that. Yeah, it's still a good song.
It's a different type of song. It's like there's a bit of an emotional. It's like an emotional ballad, and then all you need is a simple accompaniment, and it gets that emotional hit, as opposed to they're not going for a big elaborate, classical piece. It's not Radiohead.
Yeah, but I don't. But just to go out, like I like Let It Be with the Long and Winding Road, and I really like the production on that.
Well,
So
there's two versions of it now. So there's a Let It Be, and then McCartney came out and he brought that Let It Be naked because he didn't like the way it was done by Phil Spector. But you'll hear, yeah. Anyway, so that was always a classical version. I don't know when. Yeah, you would have heard.
all right, so. Are we going to leave it at this? We've spent a lot of time talking about the U2 albums that we don't particularly like. So it must have been hard, must have been painful for you as such a hardcore U2 fan. But we're happy enough to say highlights and lowlights for you, just very quickly.
In general, I think in this sort of this is mostly from the latter times. I think highlights are the odd. Like it's like the footballer who's approaching retirement. He's not great usually. He can't do a whole lot, but he can get his head in the end of the ball every now and again and produce something. And I think that's what U2 are doing. They're coming out now and again with the odd ballad that sticks the head above the parapet. Every Breaking Wave is a good example. I think Original Species is also an example of it. Songs like The Troubles, I enjoy that one as well. But yeah, I agree with you. The rocky stuff, they don't have anything that goes with it. They don't have the sort of the attitude. It feels like they're trying to do something that doesn't come naturally. Like it feels like the ballads come more naturally. Yeah, that's maybe why it works a bit better. But yeah, that's the way I feel about it. Yeah.
Yep. As for me, Every Breaking Wave, Song for Someone are probably my two favorite songs. But like California, Iris, Volcano, Raised by Wolves are solid as well. And after that, it takes a little bit of after that, I can take it or leave it. Troubles is a nice song too. Yeah, fair enough. But Cedarwood Road, Sleep Like a Baby Tonight. This is where you can reach me now. Yeah, they're grand. There's certainly nothing wrong with them, but they don't stand out to me. It's a solid. I think it's. I'd say. How would I describe this album? As bang average. And when funny enough, when you say average, bang average seems like it being really derogatory. Like, why when you say average,
It's
just
still
average.
an effort to get the effort. There's a lot that's below average.
You can still, the one thing you'll have to respect with U2 is you can still tell that they're trying, that they're still trying to make something good, and they're not phoning it in, even though sometimes it sounds like they are. No,
Yeah.
it's not that. No, it doesn't sound like they are. It's just that whatever way the production is just so middle of the road. But it still seems like they're trying themselves to make great songs, and they've just run out of ideas musically and creatively, and so that's why the melodies. It feels an awful lot of times like they're repeating themselves. A lot of songs sound the samey. It's just like every song sounds like a different version of a U2 song we've heard before, and but it's not for the want of trying. It's just because they don't seem to have that creative,
Yeah. They don't,
ability, I suppose,
Yeah,
to vary it, to mix it up, and they can always have to stick to 2 chord progressions, generally speaking, or 4 chord progressions. It always has to be a very basic structure, and there's only so many times you can make songs like that and make it sound and make it sound new.
Yeah. They don't have any. Yeah, they don't have anything experimental there. Okay, so we'll take the break and we'll come back with part 2, which will be from number 9, I think, down.
Yeah.
And if you liked what you saw, make sure and hit like and subscribe and do all that sort of stuff. And what else do you have to do? Add a comment and
add a comment and berate us. We love to be berated on this in this channel. We're complete masochists.
Shane will be in the comments there to respond.
Keyboard warrior.
All right. Okay.
Full time. All right. Thanks, folks, and we will see you for part 2.